This September, 193 countries will meet at the UN to adopt new global goals. These 17 goals provide a roadmap that will help the world achieve sustainable development. But what exactly is sustainable development and how does it affect us? Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. But what does that mean? Everyone understands the need to grow their economies, but not everyone takes into account the negatives that unbalanced economic growth can have on the environment and on people's well-being. It's time to change that by looking at the world in a different way. The Sustainable Development Goals will help us to do that. Sustainable development is about the big picture. It's about improving the lives of everyone, everywhere, and achieving all these things together. But it's also about the details. That means we want economies to grow, companies to thrive, and people to have decent work. We want to create new, innovative technologies, but not by harming the environment. We want everyone to have access to nutritious food regardless of where they live. We want affordable and quality education for everybody, not just a few. We want freedom of speech, but we don't want that to mean violence. But how can we achieve all of this, and where do we even start? Well, the 17 goals will mean member states, alongside civil society stakeholders and major groups, will be working together for the next 15 years, looking at ways we can do business differently so that everyone gains. With these 17 global goals as our guide, we can achieve sustainable development and live in a world where people and planet benefit. But we have to act now. This is the time for global action. To find out how you can get involved and learn more about the goals, go to www.un.org/.
The world is changing. We're growing, developing, consuming, shifting, questioning, creating. Change can often sound like a bad thing. We hear headlines about our changing climate, increasing consumption, decreasing resources, widening social disparity, greater volatility. But the good news is that change presents new opportunities for value creation. There is business in change. We are in a time of transition, a transition to clean energy, a transition of power to emerging markets, a transition in societal expectations and in how those needs will be met, a transition in our climate and how we adapt to this change, a transition in how value is created. All these changes are strategic for business development and growth. One way of conceptualizing the implications of change for business is by using the concepts of capital and income. Sustainable value requires maintaining or increasing our stocks of capital assets, so we can live off the income without depleting the capital. For people and business to thrive, we obtain goods and services from 6 types of capital assets. Firstly, natural capital, which makes up our natural resources, including materials and energy, like mineral deposits and forests, fish and freshwater, and ecological processes that recycle waste and regulate disease. Secondly, human capital, which is our health, how smart we are, our skills, motivation, and ability to work well and productively with people to create a better quality of life. Thirdly, social capital, our family and children, our communities, companies, labour unions and schools that help us nurture and develop human capital together with others. Fourthly, intellectual capital, which are knowledge-based assets such as patents, copyright, software, procedures and protocols, and the reputation that the Sasol brand has developed over time. Fifthly, manufactured capital, which is represented by the tools, machinery and fixed assets like buildings and infrastructure needed for manufacturing production and the providing of services. And finally, financial capital, the means of representing other forms of capital such as shares, bonds or banknotes. All these capital stocks relate to and depend on one another, as the diagram shows. Manufactured and financial capital stocks are products of and dependent on human, social and intellectual capital stocks, which in turn are products of and dependent on natural capital. If we build our financial and manufactured capital stocks at the expense of human, social, intellectual and natural capital, we deplete our resource base, leading to imbalance and eventual crisis. We need to create value and thrive in a time of change. We must adopt approaches that nurture or enhance the natural human, social and intellectual capital stocks on which that value depends. To create progress, we should contribute as part of a bigger system that supports and enhances our environment, relationships and collectives. This will be our blueprint for sustainable development. Let's ensure that the value we create for the lives we build has longevity for all of us. We can all make a powerful contribution to sustainable development. This is our strategic response to change. Sasol, reaching new frontiers.
Living systems have been around for a few billion years and will be around for many more. In the living world, there's no landfill. Instead, materials flow. One species' waste is another's food, energy is provided by the sun, things grow, then die, and nutrients return to the soil safely. And it works. Yet as humans, we've adopted a linear approach. We take, we make, and we dispose. A new phone comes out, so we ditch the old one. Our washing machine packs up, so we buy another. Each time we do this, we're eating into a finite supply of resources and often producing toxic waste. It simply can't work long term. So what can? If we accept that the living world's cyclical model works, can we change our way of thinking so that we too operate a circular economy? Let's start with the biological cycle. How can our waste build capital rather than reduce it? By rethinking and redesigning products and components, and the packaging they come in, we can create safe and compostable materials that help grow more stuff. As they say in the movies, no resources have been lost in the making of this material. So what about the washing machines, mobile phones, fridges? We know they don't biodegrade. Here, we're talking about another sort of rethink, a way to cycle valuable metals, polymers and alloys so they maintain their quality and continue to be useful beyond the shelf life of individual products. What if the goods of today became the resources of tomorrow? It makes commercial sense. Instead of the throw away and replace culture we've become used to, we'd adopt a return and renew one, where products and components are designed to be disassembled and regenerated. One solution may be to rethink the way we view ownership. What if we never actually owned our technologies? We simply licensed them from the manufacturers. Now, let's put these two cycles together. Imagine if we could design products to come back to their makers, their technical materials being reused and their biological parts increasing agricultural value. And imagine that these products are made and transported using renewable energy. Here we have a model that builds prosperity long term. And the good news is, there are already companies out there who are beginning to adopt this way of working. But the circular economy isn't about one manufacturer changing one product. It's about all the interconnecting companies that form our infrastructure and economy coming together. It's about energy. It's about rethinking the operating system itself. We have a fantastic opportunity to open new perspectives and new horizons. Instead of remaining trapped in the frustrations of the present, with creativity and innovation, we really can rethink and redesign our future.
The world is full of uncertainty. Monumental challenges such as climate change, poverty, and inequality are at the forefront of daily life and becoming increasingly urgent. One thing that isn't uncertain is the need for change. Business leaders are realizing the power of using sustainable strategies to address the world's most pressing issues while driving organizational success. One way to understand a business's sustainability efforts is by using the triple bottom line, a concept that posits firms should commit to measuring their social and environmental impact in addition to financial performance, rather than solely focusing on profit or the standard bottom line. The triple bottom line comprises 3 P's: profit, people, and the planet. The first component is profit. A firm's success heavily depends on its financial performance or the earnings it generates for shareholders. Strategic planning initiatives are generally designed to maximize profits while reducing costs and mitigating risk. Historically, many organizations' goals have ended there. Now, purpose-driven leaders are discovering they have the power to use business to affect positive change without hampering financial performance. The triple bottom line's second component highlights a business's societal impact or its commitment to people. It's important to distinguish between a firm's shareholders and stakeholders. Businesses have traditionally strived to generate value for their shareholders. As they've increasingly embraced sustainability, that focus has broadened to include all stakeholders impacted by business decisions, such as customers, employees, and members of the communities in which they operate. Some have achieved this by ensuring fair hiring practices and encouraging volunteerism in the workplace. Many companies have also worked to effect change on a larger scale. For instance, by strategically partnering with nonprofits that have similar purpose-driven goals. The triple bottom line's third and final component revolves around positively impacting the planet. Since the Industrial Revolution, large corporations have contributed a staggering amount of environmental pollution. A report by the Carbon Majors database found that 100 fossil fuel producers have been responsible for 71% of global industrial greenhouse gases since 1988. While such companies have contributed to climate change, they also have the means to combat it. Many business leaders have recognized their responsibility to act and are committed to using ethically sourced materials, reducing energy consumption, and streamlining shipping practices to reduce their organization's carbon footprints. While adopting the triple bottom line may seem idealistic in a world that emphasizes profit over purpose, innovative companies have shown it's possible to do well by doing good. Are you interested in guiding your organization toward positive change? Explore Sustainable Business Strategy, one of our online business and society courses, and discover how you can become
A sanitary landfill is an excellent method of solid waste management. Initially, a large pit or depression is made by the removal of topsoil. It is then lined with a synthetic plastic in order to prevent leakage from waste materials. This is called a bottom liner. Garbage wastes are dumped into the landfill and properly compressed using specialized machines. Pipes are inserted in order to drain off liquid materials that ooze out following compression. Methane gas produced by the decomposition of wastes is collected into separate pipes. This is done to prevent explosions. The methane may now be burnt to generate heat and electricity. Daily wastes are covered by layers of clay and topsoil in order to prevent exposure to the air, pests, and to prevent a foul smell. Specialized storm water pipes are fitted to divert and control water runoff from rains and storms. This is an ideal method for the disposal of solid wastes.
Sustainable development. Everybody's talking about it. But what do those two words really mean? Let's take a couple of minutes to see what sustainable development is all about. The idea first emerged in the late 1980s as a response to the world's growing social and environmental problems. With globalization, the inequality gap between rich and poor countries is widening every day, and the projections for population growth are alarming. How are we going to feed a total of 9 billion people in 2050? How can we offer everyone access to clean drinking water, healthcare, education? How can we protect biodiversity and take concrete action against climate change? How can we make sure that industrial development means progress for everyone? The proposed solution was a new kind of development, or rather a variation of the traditional model called, quite simply, sustainable development. The term was officially defined in 1987 as part of the preparations for the Rio Earth Summit. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Does that sound a little abstract to you? Let's put it this way. Sustainable development means that growth must be accomplished with respect for nature and humankind. And where is sustainability achieved? Right here at the crossroads of economic goals, social responsibility, and environmental protection. Now, are you wondering whether a company can combine respect for the environment, social equity, and commercial success? Well, the answer is yes. Not only that, but sustainable development creates value. Here's how. Upgrading production tools to use less energy and water is good for the environment and for the pocketbook. Offering eco-designed products and packaging that use just what's necessary saves materials and reduces shipping costs. Paying attention to employees, improving their quality of life at work, and helping them develop their skills all serve to strengthen their engagement. And stronger employee engagement means better overall performance. Creating products that are accessible to the world's poorest populations means opening new markets the ones whose populations are going to grow the fastest between now and 2050. Monitoring the working conditions offered by suppliers and subcontractors means minimizing risks that could damage the company's image. As you can see, sustainable development affects just about everything. More and more companies today understand that they have important economic, social, and environmental responsibilities and are committed to making a difference. The ones that seize this opportunity to create value will find that their success is, in a word, sustainable.
Sustainability means that things can keep going, can sustain themselves, can continue into the future and go on forever. From a human perspective, sustainability for our planet means that it can continue to do what it was designed to do: provide fresh air, clean water, produce food, and allow us all to have a high quality of life forever. Unsustainability means that it cannot, and that is where we are now. 20 years ago, scientists in Sweden developed a definition for sustainability with 4 basic principles. These can be seen as the care instructions for our planet. If we follow them, it is good for our planet. And because we're part of the system that is our planet, it's good for us too. The care instructions are as follows: reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and heavy metals, reduce our dependence on synthetic chemicals that persist in nature, reduce our destruction of nature, ensure we are not stopping people globally from meeting their needs. Demand for the Earth's services, clean air, water, food, increases as the population increases and living standards rise, but the Earth's ability to provide these services is declining because of the way we're living. In our search for prosperity, growth and success, we are destroying the system that we as humans are completely dependent upon: nature. We humans have become a threat to our own way of life. The Earth is a system and everything is connected: society, environment and economy. To live sustainably, we need to follow the 4 care instructions and apply them to everything we do at home and at work. If we can follow these care instructions, we can work together to be sustainable. We will all have a better quality of life. We'll waste less, we'll pollute less, and we'll create more things we value in society, while improving our planet's chances of providing us with the very things we need to survive.
Economic wisdom says if you want less of something, tax it. And one thing we all want less of are toxic emissions that harm our environment. Our current environmental solutions include regulations that stifle the economy and subsidies that disproportionately benefit high earners and specific industries. Both are costly and have a limited impact on the environment. But there is another approach that's often overlooked: a carbon tax. Using fossil fuels creates harmful greenhouse gas emissions like carbon dioxide. A carbon tax places a cost on those emissions, which makes any products and services derived from fossil fuels more expensive for businesses to produce and consumers to purchase. These higher prices lead to less consumption and encourage the creation and adoption of cleaner energy sources. This is a win for the environment and it can also generate significant revenue. But a carbon tax, like any other tax, isn't a perfect solution. If designed poorly, the tax could increase costs, especially for low-income families, and ultimately slow the economy. But if designed carefully, a carbon tax could actually be far more sustainable and efficient at improving our environment as well as the economy. Here are 3 principles for sound carbon tax design. First, a carbon tax should cover the broadest possible range of polluting activities. This means taxing all carbon emissions at their source, not just targeting a single industry or activity. Next, the tax should be a substitute for existing regulations like automotive and appliance standards, which provide minor environmental benefit at high cost. A sufficient carbon tax could achieve similar or better environmental results at a much lower cost. Finally, since the tax itself benefits the environment, the revenue it generates can be recycled to fund other priorities, like reducing high individual or corporate income taxes, improving tax treatment for business investment, or tackling the growing federal deficit. Every policy has trade-offs, but a well-designed carbon tax has the potential to protect the environment without harming consumers, jobs, or businesses.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Sachs, Director of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. Please join me as we explore sustainable cities in the 21st century. The world has adopted sustainable development as its core organizing principle and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And as part of that, the 193 member states of the United Nations said cities have a huge role to play, even assigning one of those 17 goals, Sustainable Development Goal 11, to be sustainable cities. Why did they do that? Because that's where most of the world lives, and an even larger proportion of the world's economy, maybe 75–80% of the economy, 55% of the world's population, and those shares of urban life in the future will rise. Join me as we explore what it means to be a sustainable city in the 21st century, how we can use new technologies, new energy systems, new modes of transport, including self-driving vehicles, new forms of the economy, such as the share economy for vehicles or sharing living space in new ways, and essentially and especially the role of innovation and the special role of universities in sustainable cities. We'll talk about all of it. It's such an exciting topic because that's where the world's economy is centered, and these are the challenges that we're going to be living and helping to find our way through in the coming years.